Hello, friends. Are you ready to hear how God is moving around us? I think oftentimes we just get lost in the day-to-day and fail to see where God is moving. This podcast is set aside so that we can see what God is doing. So get ready. Here's Miracles on Main. Hello, friends, and welcome to Miracles on Main. And today I get the special privilege and honor to talk to my daughter, Whitney Webster. Welcome.
Hi.
And she has a story that she's going to unfold. Miracles, lots of miracles that have happened in Whitney's life. And so today she is going to tell her miracle. And so, Whitney, how would you like to start? How would you describe Whitney?
So, I've always been a more shy, introverted person when it comes to public speaking and talking in front of a big group. Obviously, no one else in my family has gotten that trait, as they all are in the ministry and talk in front of several people. So, in order for me to do something like this, I have to be in front of a smaller crowd or more in a one-on-one atmosphere to really fully express my feelings.
And you also wrote it down.
Yes.
You're the first person that's come in for a podcast that actually has written it down.
Yeah, so I'm going to try not to read it word for word, but it just helps me to have more of something to fall back on.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do that as well, Whitney.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell us about your story. What has God done in your life?
So most of you know bits and pieces of my story or have heard some things I've been through. I've obviously come in contact and met a lot of new people since I've been in Illinois that haven't really heard in depth kind of the last 10 years of my life. So I'm just going to do a brief overview of what God has done for me in the last 10 years and just some things I've been through.
That sounds perfect, Whitney. Last 10 years. So your childhood was perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in church and essentially being a quote-unquote Christian. My whole family is devout believers. So we moved to Kentucky in 2000, and I lived there for 20 years up until last May. My family had since moved on back in 2005.
And you were a senior when that happened?
No,
go ahead.
So I was I just graduated from cosmetology school. Oh. So I'd been out of high school for a year.
Okay.
So everybody left me, and there I was, all by myself.
I think you felt a little abandoned at that time.
Probably so, because they moved 18 hours away to Kansas, and then obviously I had, close relationships and family, but not my core family there.
And you didn't want to move there?
No way was I moving out to Kansas.
And no offense to anybody that lives there. But...
No. No. So, I created a life and did what I needed to do. And so I'm kind of going to fast forward because there's obviously a lot of details and events that have happened in the different year time period.
What did you do in there, though? What kind of work did you do?
So I'm a hairstylist. I became licensed in September of 2005 and practiced I did hair up until May of last year.
And you own your own salon?
Yeah, which I'm going to kind of
you're going to talk about that. Bit. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So the main story that I'm kind of wanting to share is a tragic event that happened exactly 7 years ago. Me and my late husband, Joe, were in a car accident that took his life upon impact and left me fighting for mine. So I've never really talked about this out loud, so I didn't want to get emotional, so I thought maybe reading this would help, but if it doesn't, just pardon my little tears. So Joe was my high school sweetheart. We'd been together for 11 years, married for 6. So we were together a long time. After the accident happened, I don't really recall about 2 weeks of my life. It was just a fog for, longer than that, probably a good month. I was highly medicated and experienced intense trauma, so just was kind of numb to everything that was going on. So in this time period while I was in the hospital, Joe, of course, had to have his funeral. Unfortunately, I was fighting for my life in ICU, so I wasn't able to attend because I didn't know when I was going to be released, so I didn't want them waiting on me. I had hand in planning this out, but I don't remember certain things I said as far as like what I wanted him to wear and those kind of things. But between his family and mine, they just all stepped up to the plate and took charge, and yeah.
Do you have in your little notes the extent of your injuries, or?
I didn't specify. I had broke all my ribs as I was shoved into the console of the car. So all my ribs on my left side. I broke 3 ribs on my right side. I shattered my pelvis in half. Broke some bone in my right ankle and broke my collarbone. Chipped several teeth, which somehow seemed to be the main complaint that I had. Out of all those injuries, the teeth were really bothersome to me. Of course, got like severe whiplash. My lungs collapsed as my ribs were shoved into my lungs, so they had to stabilize me before they could do any surgeries and get me breathing. And we've been told by several different firemen and police on the scene that they thought I was dead. They didn't think I was going to make it. But in typical fighting Whitney fashion, I prevailed. And
we think we always go back to that moment as a miracle, because they did say that they didn't think you were going to be alive, and then your fingers started moving. So I recall one of the reports had said, and that's a miracle. You're a miracle.
Yes. Yeah, and I haven't really taken that into full, and probably till the last year, which I'll get to that here in a little bit. So, I owned a hair salon in Nicholasville, like Mom had said, and I was fortunate enough to be able to keep this salon going during this time. Several people pitching in, but a good dear friend of mine kept it up and going as I had to go to, Mom and Dad lived in Iowa now at this time of the accident, and so I went and did extreme rehabilitation and lived with them for 4 months after the accident. So kind of made some notes in here that I guess you never know how much you need God until the worst of the worst happens. My faith had been nowhere where it needed to be, which whose really is. But I needed to trust Him more than ever just to get me through the rehabbing and to be able to continue on with life and doing what I wanted to do.
So how would you explain your relationship with God after you got out of the hospital?
Well, being with my mom for a long time, a day in and day out. I'd put this in here somewhere.
Oh, okay.
That was, Mom took care of me all the time. The things that you take for granted, sitting up, getting down, taking showers, putting on deodorant, brushing your teeth.
Shaving your legs.
Shaving my legs was something that I needed help with all of this. So I had to rely on Mom for all of those things. I had a little bell that they put beside my bed that I would ding at night if I had to get up just to use the bedside commode. I had to get help just to be able to get even to that. So I, being with my parents, the believing in Jesus, and it was kind of not forced on me, but I had to incorporate Him very much so in my life because there's no other option when it comes to Cliff and Sabra, which is a very good thing because I probably wouldn't have maybe relied so much on Him if that wasn't kind of forced upon me to do so.
Forced? We forced
maybe
you?
So. Yeah.
I love the way you described forced.
Yeah. So we had, prayer warriors throughout the United States, even out of the country, as the story kind of went viral. It was on the news and the newspaper, of course, took over social media. So we had lots of people praying for us, and me and I'm forever appreciative of that because I know I couldn't have made the recovery that I have without that. Mm-hmm. So I decided that in May, the doctors had said you at least need 6 months off, but 4 months was more than enough for me as I was sick of sitting around and just waiting to get back to Wits End, which is the hair salon that I owned.
Were you in pain still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's safe to say here I am 7 years and I'm still in pain. And
daily.
Yeah. And you just learn to go on and live day to day with it. Unfortunately, it's something that's probably going to affect me my whole life, but you learn to cope with it and do what you need to do with that pain. So I jumped back in way too soon to the hair salon. Came back Memorial Day weekend of 2013 and was back in the salon a week later. So of course, when I first came back, it was just hundreds of people, maybe not hundreds, but everybody jumping in and wanting to help and take me out to lunch and do dinners and that sort of thing. At the time, I was only trying to work 15, 20 hours a week, but I wanted to see everybody that had done so much for me. There were several different fundraisers and things that people had raised money as we had a lot of hospital bills to cover. And so I just felt not so much an obligation, but I wanted to see all those people that had done so much for me. So saying no to people was hard. And so I was doing way more than I should have done, only being at this time 5 months out from the car wreck. So, I consumed myself with lunch, dinner dates, working, hanging with friends, just anything more or less to occupy my mind and look strong on the outside, even though on the inside I was fighting some pretty serious battles.
But you faked it on the outside. You'd go through the daily routine.
Yeah. I mean, I had lost my husband that I didn't ever get to say goodbye to. I don't know my last conversation, my last words. I've been asked this so many times, but I don't recall a single second of the accident. I don't really even recall that day leading up to the accident. And a good week after, even though I was carrying on conversations with people, even in the day, even when I was in the ER, I don't recall anything like that, which I truly believe God did give me those visuals and help me and didn't. I don't remember those things for obviously a reason. Mm-hmm. So had just physical pain was of course still there. Emotional pain was even worse. But I guess I would only discuss with people kind of more the physical pain, as I didn't want to allow myself to grieve, and I still have a hard time with the grieving. So then it kind of turned into just numbing, going out a lot. Went out 2-3 nights a week, drinking, and just in an ugly place as I was unhappy, and just doing anything I could do to get that temporary happiness and fix that led me nowhere. But that is what I did to cope at the time. Mm-hmm. I knew God was always still there, but I can't say that I really prayed much and relied on Him to help me when I needed Him the most.
You were in pain, so you wanted to numb.
And I was very angry and very mad. Even though I didn't express that on the outside, I was very, very angry and questioning why. Why me? I was 27 years old. I married to my high school sweetheart, had a successful business, good health, good shape, and then felt like all that was just stripped from me. And so has been a lot of anger, still is anger that I'm dealing with, hence talking about this, which is a hard thing for me. So fast forward, so about a year, when I went back to the salon, I ended up having to quit for a couple months because I was in too much pain, and my pelvis was probably the main thing that always hurt, as I'd had 2 6-inch screws and 2 3-inch screws, which later had come out several years later after being persistent that these were causing me the pain and jabbing. But standing on my feet for several hours a day was just irritating. The screws were rubbing at sciatic nerves and that sort of thing. So I took off 3 weeks and 3 months, and then went back and had some other girls come and help. And yeah. So fast forward to July of 2014, which is a year and a half after the accident, is when I had met my now husband, Jamie. So we crossed each other's paths unexpectedly, not really looking for a relationship. He had been through a recent divorce, and I was still obviously dealing with so much internally, just going through a tragedy a year and a half before. But we had an instant connection, and safe to say we fell in love very, very fast as we helped each other out of a dark time. Mm-hmm. Jamie said what I needed to hear and comforted me in some of the hardest times of my life, and I relied on him a lot to pick me up and make me feel good.
Emotionally, he was.
Emotionally, yeah. Mm. Yeah. So we were married a year and a half, not even a year and a half. We were married August of 2015, so a little over a year after we met. And during the first couple of years of our marriage, we lost quite a few friendships, or I lost quite a few friendships. Just kind of felt a lack of approval, and I constantly felt judgment anywhere and everywhere that I went. Mm-hmm. And people really don't know what you're going through when you're, here I am now, 28, and had been married twice and lost a husband tragically. And I just felt a judgment, and not that was necessarily what was going on. I just constantly felt judged by other people, and yeah, I lost several very close friendships due to that, and
that probably added to the anger that it was growing on the inside.
Yes, and kind of took away from what I was, the full love I was able to give to Jamie, just because it wasn't his fault, it wasn't my fault. What?
No, you're good.
Yeah. So we were good. We had fun. It was still kind of in that numbing mechanism where we went, did vacations, and we had so much fun. It was fun, but there was still so much pain for both of us. Mm-hmm. He had unfortunately moved and leave his kids in Florida and come back to Kentucky to work, and we just both were dealing with a lot at a very young age. And so time went on, and safe to say, I've never really can say that I've been depressed, but in probably the 2018 year, I just experienced a lot of depression. I gained almost 40 pounds that year, and me and Jamie just were kind of going separate directions as we were not both pulled, but we just had,
You were dealing with you were still in grieving. Mm-hmm. And he was dealing with grieving too. A divorce, you have to grieve. And his children moved to Germany. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the death of his mom.
Right.
He was very close.
Extremely.
Yeah. So, could you say during that period of time you were developing a relationship with God, or was he still distant?
Me and Jamie had started actively attending church together, and so we were kind of, we knew, we both agreed that getting back into church and trying to develop a relationship as a couple with God was kind of our only option at that point, as we were both just experiencing a lot of heartache. And so we were actively attending church, but as far as on a day-to-day, it's not like we were engaging in the Word or mm-hmm. doing Bible studies together or that
developing a personal relationship. It was more going through the motions.
Right.
Trying to keep God at a distance.
Right.
Doing what looks good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people probably listening to you that can relate to that.
Right.
Because a lot of people go through that process. They get hurt, they get mad at God, but they know that that's not right. So they try to do the right thing by going to church or, maybe occasionally opening up their Bible, but they still feel that, that pain, that doesn't help. And you know that. So
mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people that might be listening to this will probably be surprised to, oh, you seem fine, because I always have oh, you're so strong, Whitney. How do you do it? And I just kept up that demeanor of, oh, I got this and I'm fine. When in the inside, I was screaming very loud. And I would call Mom a lot and just say, I gotta get out of here. This is, I was sad. I was in a sad place and felt like I had nobody, even though I had a good core group of friends that I could call on to fully be able to open up. It was hard because I didn't want to seem like a sad, depressed person, because let's face it, who wants to be around sad, depressed people? And that was never me. I was always uplifting and fun, and people enjoyed being around me for that reason.
I think when people could peek at if they looked at you at that period of time, they were always astonished by how strong you are. You know, that you went back to work so fast and you put a face on, but you really weren't on the inside. You put the mask up. Yeah. I could see it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you would let down. Why do you suppose, you said it because you didn't want people to have to think, well, there's the depressed Whitney or there's the sad Whitney.
Yep. And being a stylist / friend to around 200 people, I was the person that people came to tell their problems to, for me to uplift them. And I wanted to be that person, but then when it came down to me, I felt like I never had that person that I could run to when I had God the whole time, but I didn't run to him to cast those worries and things upon. Right.
You just ran to inward Whitney.
Yeah.
How's that work?
That's so good.
I mean, we're laughing, but we have tears in our eyes as we're laughing. So it's kind of bittersweet. You know, you have all kinds of emotions that you have to walk through. But I could see that you were broken. But what I felt like is, darn it, Mom, I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
We always wanted you to come back and be healed, but you were pretty resistant to that. You had to find out yourself.
Right.
That you couldn't do it. You had to get to your own breaking point, no matter what anybody could tell you, because you're pretty strong. Yeah, you get that from your dad.
Yeah.
So
I went through 2018, and me and Jamie just ended on the lowest of lows at the end of 2018. We just a bad place. We both still loved each other a lot, but just, okay, this isn't going to work. This isn't working for us. And so my birthday's January 1st, New Year's Day. So 2019, my birthday, I'm not starting another year feeling like this. I was the heaviest that I'd ever been, and just in a dark, dark, low place. So I instantly just decided to act and make better choices for myself, and in hopes that 2019 was going to end on a better note. So about 2 months in, actually the 6-year anniversary, February 24th, 2019, of the car wreck, I just felt this peace and God speaking to me more probably than ever before. And I remember I was in the shower, and he just told me, it's time to go. And I've never, have felt him talk to me like he did then. And I knew my time in Kentucky was done. It was time to move on and start fresh and start new. And so I got out of the shower, and in typical Whitney fashion, I acted upon it very fast. And yeah, in a couple weeks' time, I had a great gal that was gonna buy this lawn from me, and that was my main thing. How could I leave and give up what I've known? And I love this salon. I love what I did. I love the people that went with it.
Mm-hmm. You loved your jazzercise buddies.
Yes, and my jazzercise and being right next door to them. And so that week I told some of my closest friends, and it was extremely hard, but not one person, everybody couldn't believe that I hadn't done it sooner, knowing the relationship I had with my family. I wasn't ever made to feel guilty or bad of it, and So I kind of wrapped up my chapter in Kentucky per se for 4 months, which was extremely hard, just all the goodbyes. But with each goodbye, I felt such a peace in knowing that I was doing the right thing. Unfortunately, hair was just still continuing to cause me physical pain, so I knew I couldn't continue to run this business, but physical, emotional, just all sorts of pain that I knew I was finally letting go and quit, just done pushing through it. And yeah, so me and Jamie in this time had unfortunately separated, and I told him, look, I'm leaving. I'm going to Illinois, which he fully supported, knowing the relationship I had with my family and how much I missed them and the place that I was in my life, and ending 2018 like I had. And so we had taken some time apart, and I came here the 1st of May and got a place, and we still loved each other, and leaving was extremely, extremely hard. And I knew if this is the man that God had for me, that it would all work out, and he would be here, and we both kind of left it at that. So not 6 weeks later, Jamie decided to move here, and fortunately, this is such a huge God thing. The company that he was working for in Kentucky had a management position here, and well, they didn't really have a management position. They created a management position for Jamie, so he came out here and talked to them, and then they wanted him, and
that was crazy.
Begged for him, and and so God worked that out for him to continue doing what he was doing, but just here in Illinois. And so he moved here, and our lives had instantly started to change, as we didn't have the burden of feeling the judgment, and I wasn't having the anger of the pain. I wasn't having the stress of running the business and trying to put on a face, because I knew nobody here. I knew Mom, Dad, and Katie, and I could go anywhere, and I didn't have to pretend to be somebody that I wasn't. Not that I was being fake, but I didn't have to feel like I had to put on this happy-go-lucky face. So I was able just this summer really just to deal with a lot and let down my guard and be able to feel and not numb the pain, and be able to feel what I was actually feeling. So
you began grieving. I mean, you let the grief out, right?
Yeah. And closing that chapter where I'd had in Kentucky with Joe, and leaving that, I knew it was something that was going to have to eventually be done for me to have kind of that closure. And I'm still experiencing that closure, but it's each day it just seems like I feel a little more at peace, I guess, with it. And I don't think I ever could have gotten that by staying in Kentucky.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah. So many of you that know me probably know this, but I never really wanted kids, and I think a lot of it was actually have a physical kid of my own. A lot of it was a fear of the pain that it was going to cause me because of my injuries that still affect me daily, and being away from my family. I'm like, how can I possibly raise a baby and a child living so far away from my family? And everybody is in Illinois. Everyone's here. My brothers are only 3 hours away. Grandparents and Mom and Dad and Katie are only 15 minutes away. So Jamie always wanted another kid. So I was ready. I felt like God was calling me to become a mother and have a kid. I wasn't running this business working 60, 70 hours a week anymore. And Jamie was able to provide financially for us, where I'm able to stay at home and kind of be a homemaker, which is totally opposite of what I've ever done before. Yeah,
we're laughing because Katie's in the room as well, but we're laughing because it's total. Many of you know Whitney, but if you don't know Whitney, that was something she never even dreamed possible. Never even thought of being a mother.
No.
And so it was a real miracle that desire even came upon your heart, I believe.
Yeah. So prayed to God, if this is your will, let's make it happen. So not even after after a month that I decided I wanted a kid, we were pregnant. So August, end of July, not even, almost exactly 2 months of Jamie being here, month and a half, 2 months, we found out we were pregnant, and it was the best feeling in the world, watching that test come up positive. And so acted upon that and went to the doctor, only to find out that, not really find out, but I ended up miscarrying at about 8-9 weeks along and having to have a emergency D&C, which many of you guys do not know. And here I was on the highest of highs of life that I have been on in 7-8 years, only for it to feel like it was all taken away from me again.
Did you get mad at God in that period of time?
Yeah, and this is something else I hadn't really dealt with. It's just a very scary thing. So I had to, I went into the ER, and not 2 hours later, I was having a D&C and questioning God again, why? Like, you gave me this baby only a month after I'd asked for a baby, only for it to be taken away from me and put me through this pain again. So, there was a little bit of that anger there again, which I knew there was obviously a reason as to why this was happening. So, a couple of months went on, and we knew, obviously we were going to try again as soon as we can, which he gave us the go-ahead 2 months later, and bam, we were pregnant again. So, I knew this was God's will to give me 2 babies in only 6 months' time. So, found out we were pregnant December 2019, which is wrapped up, all in all, an extremely good, life-changing year. And I ended 2019 on a totally different wavelength feeling than I had ended that previous year. And that's what I had said, that I was never going to end a year feeling just like I had. And so, sold my business, moved to Illinois, got pregnant, and ended on a pretty high.
In 2019.
Yeah.
And you stopped running from Whitney. Does that make sense? You stopped running from the hurt, Whitney, and started really, you were physically hurt, but
right.
Now, and emotionally hurt. You had to deal with the physical pain. But I think last year you spent a great amount of time dealing with the emotional pain.
Right.
And you stopped running from that. How do you think how do you think God helped you through the emotional pain?
Just dealing with it. I have been fortunate enough to have stayed home besides a little part-time job that I took during the holiday season, and just having that quiet time and downtime. I know Mom and Katie get on me a lot because I love to stay home and be at home, but the quiet time has just helped me so much, just being quiet and listening and doing. And that alone time.
Letting it out. Years worth of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Letting it out. So do you talk to the Lord when you're in those quiet times, or?
I'm just seeking a lot of clarity on questions that I've had for years and years, and so I just feel so much, I just feel a clarity of this is where I'm supposed to be and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. That's something I haven't had in a long time.
Yeah. There's still obviously pain that you're going to, tears are healing, by the way. Every time I tell people this frequently, that when we cry, there's not a tear that we don't have that God doesn't see. And He wipes away our tears.
Yep.
What's that one quality of God that you think that you've experienced through this? Is that,
one quality of God?
Mm-hmm. Like some people, so sorry about that interruption, but some people say that God is the God of all comfort. Some people say that He's, the one that His unfailing love is what pulled me through.
Probably maybe perseverance, like that He is always going to be there, even if you portray Him and like I had for several years and not relied on Him. He's still going to be there to pick you back up. He's still going to be there in your dark times, even if you haven't relied on Him in your dark times before.
Yeah, you can.
So I don't know if perseverance is the right word, but His just.
I think it's a perfect word.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people give up and turn inward, and become depressed and leave it there. Never get through it.
Right.
Never get through that pain. That they become identified with their pain instead of becoming identified with their true self. But it sounds like this last year, what you've done is you're no longer identified by your pain or by this accident. You've identified yourself you're learning to identify yourself more and more every day by the person that God sees.
Right. And by a wife and by a mom to be. And I think I felt guilty having that wife title after Joe had died, and that took me from being the wife I should be to Jamie, and me being the wife that I should be to Jamie has transformed our relationship, and I can't say enough about his patience with me and him calming my anxiousness and putting hope in my doubts and just letting me be 100% me, which this last 3 months has been pretty pathetic because I've been very sick, and Harley is going to be feisty, just like her mom and dad. And he allows me to, if I want to lay in bed all day, I don't never made to feel guilty. That's what I'm doing. And he's been there to pick me up. And I can't thank him enough of the transformation he has made in exactly a year's time. He's a different guy, and I'm just so proud of him.
Where are you two now?
We're better than ever before. Jamie's a very introverted person, and it is hard to get any sort of anything out of him. And he is learning that's how relationships make it. You have to talk. And when it comes to one-on-one, I am very talkative through, and I don't like not having closure to any sort of argument or anything. And he's doing that slowly but surely. We just went through a marriage conference 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and there was a lot of things that we hadn't forgiven each other for that had happened over the last several years, that we went back into this room together and it just broke down, and I finally felt like I had forgiven him for some things that he had done that I had been holding against him, and just the feeling of letting that stuff go has been such a relief as I've carried it around for too long. So being able, God allowing me to forgive and for him to forgive has grown us that much closer, and obviously having a baby together, and there's still a lot of fear as we've just experienced a miscarriage, a couple short months ago, but growing a human together
it's amazing, isn't it?
And I'm glad I'm experiencing it, because everybody always told me it would be, you're really missing out that you're not experiencing it. So experiencing that together is awesome.
Yeah. So this baby's part of the healing process too.
Right.
Yeah. Harley.
Yep.
I have a feeling she's going to be a little spoiled. When are you due?
August 11th.
I actually knew that question.
Yeah. So
you're just starting to show.
Yeah, in the last week, And
if you don't know Whitney, when I say just starting to show, that even seems funny because typically you're a little over concerned with body image, right? Would you say? Well, being a hairdresser, that kind of goes with it.
Yeah, which it's safe to say I've let that go the last 3 months. I have not felt like so much even picking up a 2-pound weight, going on a walk. I have hibernated, so I hope that second trimester will continue to get better and spring will blossom me into a little butterfly that wants to go walk and fly.
Never heard you say that before.
Yeah.
So would you say you and Jamie are growing closer to each other and to the Lord? And how does that work?
Yes, absolutely. We're still so much that we need to do, but just having your mom as your pastor, you can't really get away with a lot as far as missing Sundays and that sort of thing. So just...
But your mom can't make your relationship with God.
No.
You know what I mean? I can't make you have a relationship with God. That just doesn't work.
Right.
So, just so the listeners know that you make that choice all by yourself. Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
Just being around the positive Christian influences. Mm-hmm. And I had, some of that in Kentucky, but I also had some not so good, probably influences in Kentucky. So not being around those distractions anymore and just consuming myself in different hobbies and activities than I used to. Just...
Are you crocheting or what?
No, just not going and drinking. Obviously, I'm not drinking being pregnant, but just not going out and numbing pain. And I don't have those distractions, which is growing me closer to God because it's all I have.
Yeah, well, sometimes we have to get rid of, the loud things in our life, the things that are taking our attention off of God to put it on God. So for the listeners, some people might be going through some pain too. Maybe they've got some hurts. So what I see the miracles are in your story, one of the greatest miracles is letting go of anger. And letting go of anger means you have to forgive. That's part of the process. And, you getting away by yourself and allowing that to come out. That's what introverts do. I just heard this story right before this podcast of another person who got away by themselves and had a miracle, God meeting with them. And so that's what some people do. And that's an amazing, amazing thing. Some people have to talk to people. That's the process. But what I'm hearing you say is the miracle in your lives is, letting go of anger, letting go of what should have been. That's what I remember you always talking about. What should have been. That's a hard thing to let go of and walk in the now. I always used to tell you, Whitney, let's do the now. You can't go back and fix the past, but you can deal with the now. And that's what I see Whitney living in every day is the now, the present, and turning back and still getting sad. Like this day is the day that this Monday is the 7th year, and that's always sad, but you don't live there anymore. Mm-hmm. You're living, in this day, and you'll always love Joe because he's always going to be a part of our life. Mm-hmm. You don't ever get over that part, but you walk on, in the now. And I just appreciate that you do that so well and that you're learning to do that. And we're all learning to do that. It's tough when you lose a loved one and walk into a new life together. And so I appreciate your vulnerability.
Thanks.
Your transparency, because your story is going to help other people to walk in their story,
That's something I've kind of jotted down here lastly is that I want to be here for people to I'm here for people to reach out to and to just know that God puts these situations and circumstances in your life for the better, even though it doesn't seem it at the time. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, which is such a cliche saying, but there is, And better times are ahead. Your present struggle is only temporary. And the sooner you heal with it, the more you can go on living and doing what God intended you to do. And don't numb those feelings as I have, because it's such a freeing experience to deal with those internal battles.
Mm-hmm. So you can help other women or whomever walk through some very similar circumstances. Maybe we have a listener that has harbored a lot of anger because of what has happened in their life. You know, you're one of those people now that can use that situation and turn it out for good. Something good can come out, you know, of a dark place that you were in.
Right.
So.
And if you're battling with decisions, as I had been, I mean, really thinking ever since I'd come back from Kentucky after the accident, so much heartache was there. You're battling with those decisions of to take that next step, to take that leap of faith. And obviously it was a huge leap of faith coming here to close those chapters, rely on God, and He will make that answer clear, as He did to me in the shower last February. Like, He will make those answers very, very, very clear. And
no matter how hard I tried, it didn't work until the Spirit spoke to you. That's what I've learned through this. You know, you can't manipulate people's lives. You can't change people's lives. They've got to do it when the Spirit leads them to do it. Mm-hmm. So, do you remember that Bible verse when we were little? Remind me that we sang to a song. I'm not going to sing the song, but that Bible verse reminds me of your experience in the shower where it says, why am I crying?
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight.
Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. So I'm thinking somebody needs to hear that, because we can, if you're in a dark place, you can come out of that. Mm-hmm. And Whitney is a miracle. I mean, from the very beginning, you know, 7 years ago when her fingers started moving, and I often have dreams of those fingers starting moving and thinking life was there. And we grieve Joe, yes, but we do. And anyway.
And he has talked about, I mean, weekly, sometimes daily, his memory will never, ever be forgotten. And he left a good memory on all of us. And
yeah.
He deserves to be talked about.
It's easy to talk about Joe this time of year.
Approaching football season,
basketball, March Madness.
Yes.
And Dad and I always think he would really like this team. I think there's some players that he would like, and so they won. I mean, they're doing great this year. So I always think of them. Well, I think of him. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't think of him. But I love that God has brought Jamie into our life. You know, but even as a mother-in-law, that was hard. You know, to share my love now with the new son-in-law. You know, bless
his heart, he's had that. It's hard to come in after somebody that had been a part of our lives for 11 years and be that next person, not take Joe's role, but be that person. And that is a very, very hard thing. And he has done it.
Yeah, he's done it. It would take a strong person to do that. And Jamie's done it really, really well. So, listeners, you heard Whitney that if you ever want to reach out to us, we're going to have an email address that you can always write a message to. That's a great way to contact us with your questions, or you want to talk to somebody. There's lots of ways that you're going to be able to contact us to talk to someone. We're here for you to help you through those places and to help you, you know. Whitney kept saying, I remember in Kentucky, she felt like she didn't have anybody. Well, we're here, and we'd be happy to help. And Whitney's got plenty of time on her hands. And she's a great listener, and great listener, and one of the most unjudgmental people that I know, that can lead you to this place of peace with God through your, you know, even the worst of circumstances, because she's experienced it firsthand. You know, she's experienced life hard life, and she's living to testify that now she's experiencing a peace that she didn't have before. And so I see her in church on Sunday smiling, and it's a dream of a mother's heart. So, how do we end this podcast?
So we love you all, and I appreciate so many of you that have walked with me and been there for me and have loved on me. And I miss my Kentucky people very much so, and I'd love for anybody to come visit us in Illinois. Some of y'all.
Well, I'm going to pray. Father, I thank you for the amazing miracle of this story, of the way that you have shown up in so many different places. And I just ask, Lord, for this door to remain open for Whitney to minister to other people. Thank you for helping her to experience you in this moment of time and continuing to heal her heart and Jamie's heart, and to bring them to this place of oneness together is amazing. And so I thank you, Lord. I thank you for newness. I thank you for forgiveness. I thank you, Lord, for letting go of resentment and anger. And we thank you for the glory of hope that we all have, that someday we too will see our loved ones face to face. So we love you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, we will see you, friends, until next time. God bless you. Want to say bye, Whitney? Say bye.
Bye.